The call came at 3 a.m., exactly 1 year after Mark stole everything from me. I was still awake, nursing a glass of wine and staring at old family photos, a habit I'd developed since losing both the business and my parents in the same cruel year. My name is Viviana, and until last year, I was the co-heir to Swanson Technologies, a company my parents built from nothing. Now I'm just another unemployed tech executive with a vendetta. Your brother's making mistakes, the voice on the phone said. Big ones. Thought you might want to know. I sat up straighter, wine forgotten. Who is this? Someone who thinks you got a raw deal. Check your email. And Viviana, Meridian Tech is hiring. The line went dead before I could respond. My hands trembled as I opened my laptop, finding a single new email containing internal documents from my family's company. Now Mark's company. The financials were worse than I'd imagined. Bastards running it into the ground, I whispered, scrolling through the numbers. My phone buzzed. A text from my Aunt Rachel. Can't sleep either? Come over. 20 minutes later, I was sitting in Rachel's kitchen, the familiar scent of her chamomile tea filling the air. She'd been more of a mother to me since my parents died, especially after Mark's betrayal. You look like you've seen a ghost, Rachel said, sliding a steaming mug toward me. I just got some interesting information about Mark's company. I pulled out my phone, showing her the documents. He's making exactly the mistakes Dad always warned us about. Rachel's eyes narrowed as she studied the screen. And what do you plan to do with this information? I don't know yet. I did know, but I wasn't ready to say it out loud. Remember last month when I tried to confront him at the office? How could I forget? Security escorted you out while he watched from his window. The memory made my blood boil. He didn't even have the decency to face me, just stood there, drinking Dad's favorite whiskey from Dad's crystal glass in Dad's office. Your office, Rachel corrected. It should have been yours too. He had it all planned, I said, the words bitter in my mouth. While Mom and Dad were in the hospital after the accident, he was already meeting with lawyers, changing documents, moving assets. By the time they passed, I couldn't finish the sentence. Rachel reached across the table, squeezing my hand. What are you thinking, Vivi? Meridian Tech is hiring. Mark's biggest competitor? Rachel's eyebrows shot up. Now that would be interesting. My phone buzzed again. Elena, my best friend since college, requesting a video call. I answered, and her concerned face filled the screen. Vi, I just saw the news. Mark's announcing his engagement tomorrow. What? The mug slipped from my hand, spilling tea across Rachel's pristine tablecloth. To who? Gabriella Joseph. That investor's daughter he's been seeing. There's going to be a press conference in the morning. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Of course. He takes the company, and now he's going to play happy families in front of the cameras. The prodigal son carrying on our parents' legacy. Don't let him win, Elena said firmly. Not like this. Rachel was already cleaning up the spilled tea, but her eyes were fixed on me. She's right. You're stronger than him, Viviana. Always have been. I stood up, my decision made. I need to go home and update my resume. Meridian Tech's going to want to see it first thing in the morning. What are you planning? Elena asked through the phone. I looked at the family photo on Rachel's wall. Mom, Dad, Mark, and me at the company's 20th anniversary celebration. We were all smiling then, before the accident, before the betrayal. I'm planning to take back what's mine, I said. But first, I'm going to learn exactly how he did it. Rachel nodded slowly. Your father always said the best revenge is success. This isn't about revenge, I lied, gathering my things. It's about justice. As I drove home through the empty streets, my anonymous caller's words echoed in my mind. Mark was making mistakes, big ones, and soon, very soon, I would make him pay for every single one of them. My phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. Interview tomorrow, 9 a.m. Maurice Brown's office. Don't be late. I smiled for the first time in what felt like years. Game on, big brother, game on. Maurice Brown's office was everything my father's hadn't been. Sleek, modern, and intimidating. The man himself sat behind a glass desk, studying my resume with an intensity that made me nervous. "Your credentials are impressive," he said, finally looking up. "But let's address the elephant in the room. You're Mark's sister." I replied, keeping my voice steady. "Now I'm just someone who knows every aspect of how Swanson Technologies operates." A slight smile crossed his face. "And why should I believe you'd be loyal to Meridian?" "Because my brother made sure I have nothing left to lose." I leaned forward. "He betrayed me, Mr. Brown. But more importantly, he's destroying everything my parents built. I want to help Meridian become what Swanson Technologies should have been." Maurice stood up, walking to his window. "Call me Maurice, and tell me, what would you do differently?" For the next hour, I outlined everything I'd seen in those leaked documents, explaining exactly how Mark's decisions were weakening the company. Maurice listened intently, occasionally interrupting with sharp questions that proved he understood exactly what I was talking about. "You start Monday," he said finally. "Junior executive position. Prove yourself, and we'll talk about more." 3 months later, I was staying late at the office when I overheard voices from the conference room. "Swanson Technologies lost another major contract," someone said. "Third one this quarter." I pressed myself against the wall, listening. "Mark's getting desperate," another voice added. "Word is, he's trying to arrange a merger with Pacific Solutions to stay afloat." My heart raced. Pacific Solutions was notorious for gutting companies and selling them for parts. I pulled out my phone and texted Elena. "Need you to dig into Pacific Solutions. Anything you can find." Elena, a financial journalist, replied instantly, "Already on it. Having drinks with Donald tomorrow, Mark's best man. He loves to talk when he's drunk." I smiled. Elena had always been brilliant at getting information out of people. The next morning, Maurice called me into his office. "Your proposal for the Anderson account was exceptional. The board wants you to lead the presentation next week." "Thank you, but you heard about Pacific Solutions," he finished, studying my face. "News travels fast in this industry." I nodded. "If Mark merges with them, everything my parents built will be destroyed." "Then stop it." Maurice's voice was calm but firm. "Show me what you can really do, Viviana." That evening, I met Rachel for dinner at our usual spot. The restaurant was quiet, perfect for sensitive conversations. "Pacific Solutions." Rachel's fork clattered against her plate. "He wouldn't dare." "He would," I said, pushing my food around. "He's desperate. The company's hemorrhaging money. Your father would be heartbroken." Rachel reached for her wine. "When are you going to make your move?" "Soon, but I need more allies, more resources." My phone buzzed. "Elena, you won't believe what Donald just told me. Call me ASAP." "Excuse me," I said to Rachel, stepping outside to call Elena. "Pacific Solutions isn't Mark's only option," Elena said, without preamble. "Donald let slip that there's a board meeting next week. They're considering other buyers." "Who?" "He wouldn't say, but he mentioned the Anderson contract. Apparently, Mark's counting on it to keep the company attractive to buyers. The same contract I was presenting to next week." The pieces started falling into place. Back inside, Rachel took one look at my face and knew. "You've found something." "Maybe." I took a deep breath. "But I need to move carefully. One wrong step, and Mark will see me coming." "He's too arrogant for that," Rachel said. "He still thinks you're broken. Use that." Later that night, working late at Meridian, I noticed Maurice watching me from his office. He walked over, coffee in hand. "The Anderson presentation isn't just about landing a client, is it?" he asked. I met his gaze. "No, it's not." "Good." He set the coffee on my desk. "Because I didn't hire you just for your expertise. I hired you because I recognize that look in your eyes. The look that says you're willing to do whatever it takes to win." "Is that enough?" "It's a start." He turned to leave, then paused. "Your brother's hosting a charity gala next weekend. Meridian just received an invitation. I think it's time we introduced his sister, the rising star of Meridian Tech, to our business partners, don't you?" I smiled, already imagining Mark's face when he saw me there. I believe it is. The charity gala was being held at the same hotel where we'd celebrated my parents' last anniversary. Mark had chosen it deliberately, I was sure. He always did have a talent for twisting the knife. Ready? Elena adjusted my emerald dress in the hotel lobby. You look like $1,000,000. Make that 10 million, Maurice said, appearing beside us in an impeccable tuxedo. The investors will love you. I touched the diamond pendant at my neck, Mom's favorite, rescued from the house before Mark could claim it. Let's go make some new friends. The ballroom was packed with the city's business elite. I spotted Mark immediately, holding court near the stage, with his new fiancée, Gabriella, on his arm. He hadn't seen me yet. Viviana, Donald's voice boomed across the room. Mark's head snapped up, his champagne glass freezing halfway to his lips. Our eyes met, and for a moment I saw a flicker of fear before his practiced smile returned. Donald, I greeted Mark's best man warmly. How lovely to see you again. You know each other? Mark appeared at Donald's side, Gabriella in tow. We've met, I said sweetly. Donald's been very informative about the business lately. Donald, already tipsy, didn't catch the tension. Viviana's doing amazing things at Meridian. Did you know she landed the Anderson account? Mark's smile tightened. Did she? Actually, Maurice interrupted smoothly. Viviana's been instrumental in several of our recent successes. We're lucky to have her. How wonderful, Gabriella said genuinely, seemingly oblivious to the undercurrent. Mark, you never mentioned your sister was so accomplished. There's a lot Mark doesn't mention, I said, locking eyes with my brother. Isn't there? Before he could respond, Elena appeared with an elderly gentleman in tow. Viviana, Mr. Patterson wants to discuss your proposals for technological integration in the healthcare sector. Excuse me, I said to Mark. Business calls. As I walked away, I heard Gabriella ask, Darling, why didn't you tell me Viviana was working for Meridian? The next hour was a blur of handshakes and strategic conversations. I worked the room exactly as Dad had taught us, making connections, dropping hints about Meridian's upcoming projects, watching potential investors' eyes light up with interest. You're a natural, Maurice murmured, appearing at my elbow with fresh champagne. 3 investors have already asked about private meetings. Make that 4, Rachel said, joining us. I just overheard the Thompson Group discussing how they might need to reconsider their existing partnerships. Their existing partnership with Mark, you mean? I took a sip of champagne, scanning the room. Where is he? Having an intense discussion with the board members by the bar, Elena reported, materializing with her journalist's notebook discreetly palmed. They don't look happy. I watched Mark gesture frantically, his usual composure cracking. One of the board members shook his head and walked away. Trouble in paradise, Maurice asked innocently. The Anderson contract was supposed to save him, I said. Without it, Viviana. Mark's voice was tight with controlled anger. He'd approached without me noticing. A word, I followed him to a quiet corner, aware of Elena and Rachel watching protectively. What are you playing at? He hissed. Playing? I'm working, Mark. Something you might want to try, instead of selling off pieces of Mom and Dad's legacy. His face reddened. You have no idea what it takes to run this company. No, you made sure of that when you changed their will while they were dying. I kept my voice low but sharp. How's that working out for you? I heard Pacific Solutions is interested in buying. Mark grabbed my arm. Stay out of this, Vivi. You're in over your head. Let go of my sister. Rachel's voice cut through the tension. She stood there, every inch the family matriarch, with Maurice and Elena flanking her. Mark released me, straightening his jacket. Family matters should stay in the family. You lost the right to talk about family, Rachel said coldly, the day you betrayed yours. As Mark stormed off, Elena touched my arm. You okay? Better than okay, I said, watching him return to his increasingly worried-looking board members. Donald just texted me. The board's calling an emergency meeting tomorrow morning. Maurice smiled. Perfect timing. Shall we announce Meridian's new healthcare initiative? The one that just happened to be Mark's biggest potential growth sector. I nodded, straightening my mother's pendant. Time to twist the knife. Rachel squeezed my hand. Your parents would be proud. Not of the revenge, maybe, but of how brilliantly you fight. This isn't just about revenge anymore, I said, watching Gabriella console a visibly agitated Mark across the room. It's about justice, and it's just beginning. The morning after the gala, Elena burst into my office at Meridian without knocking. You're not going to believe this. I looked up from my laptop. The board meeting. Better. She tossed a USB drive onto my desk. Donald got drunk at brunch and left his laptop unlocked. Mark's been cooking the books for months. Maurice walked in just as I plugged in the drive. Close the door, I said. The files painted a damning picture. Mark had been inflating profits, hiding losses, and moving money between accounts to keep the company looking stable. This is exactly what we need, Maurice said, studying the screen. But we have to move carefully. One wrong step, and he could destroy evidence. My phone buzzed. A text from Rachel. Mark just called. He's moving up the wedding. 2 weeks from now. He's panicking, Elena said, reading over my shoulder, trying to look stable for the investors. Or trying to get married before everything falls apart, I added. Either way, we need to move faster. Maurice nodded. I'll call an executive meeting. It's time to discuss a hostile takeover. Wait. I held up my hand. I have a better idea. Donald mentioned something at the gala about Mark's private server. Elena's eyes lit up. The one with all the original company documents? Including, I said slowly, the real version of our parents' will. The next day, I met Donald for coffee. He was already seated when I arrived, nervously checking his phone. Thanks for meeting me, I said, sliding into the chair across from him. Mark's going crazy, trying to find out who accessed his private files. Donald wiped his brow. He doesn't suspect me yet, but you're worried he will, I finished. Help me, Donald. Help me prove what he did. Why should I? Because you were there. I leaned forward. You were at the hospital that day. You saw him with those lawyers while our parents were dying. Donald's hands shook as he lifted his coffee. He's my best friend. Is he? Or is he just the guy who's been using you to cover up his crimes? 3 hours later, I walked into Maurice's office with a signed statement from Donald and access codes to Mark's private server. You've been busy, Maurice said, impressed. I learned from the best. I sat down, pulling out my tablet. Now, about that takeover. The next week was a whirlwind of secret meetings and careful planning. Elena kept feeding false stories to other journalists, directing attention away from our real moves. Rachel worked her social connections, quietly swaying key investors. Then came the text I'd been waiting for. Wedding rehearsal dinner tonight. Mark insisted I invite you, says it's time to heal the family. Gabriella, it's a trap, Elena said when I showed her. Of course it is, I smiled. That's what makes it perfect. The restaurant was exclusive, the kind of place Mark loved to flaunt his wealth. I arrived fashionably late, making sure everyone noticed my entrance. Viviana, Gabriella rushed to hug me. I'm so glad you came. Mark approached more slowly, champagne in hand. Sister, decided to accept the olive branch. How could I miss my only brother's wedding? I raised my glass. To new beginnings. Donald caught my eye from across the room, giving a subtle nod. The server was ours. Speech, someone called out. Let's hear from the best man. Donald stood, swaying slightly. I've known Mark for years. Been through everything with him, including, he paused, glancing at me. Some things I'm not proud of. Mark's face darkened. Donald. But tonight's about family, Donald continued. About truth, about doing what's right. My phone vibrated. A message from Maurice. Documents secured. Board members notified. Green light. I stood up, cutting off Donald's speech. Actually, I'd like to say something. The room fell silent. Mark's knuckles went white around his glass. Tomorrow morning, I said clearly, the board of Swanson Technologies will receive proof of extensive financial fraud. They'll also receive the original version of our parents' will, the one Mark replaced while they were dying. Gasps filled the room. Gabriella's hand flew to her mouth. "You have no proof," Mark snarled. "Check your private server," I suggested. "Oh wait, you can't. The authorities already have." The sound of breaking glass echoed as Mark's champagne flute shattered in his grip. "You're bluffing," he whispered. I pulled out my phone, showing him the screen. His face went pale. "The real question," I said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "is whether your lovely bride wants to be married to a man who's about to be charged with fraud and theft." As chaos erupted around us, I caught Rachel's proud smile from across the room. The game wasn't over, but I'd just made my winning move. The morning after the rehearsal dinner bombshell, I sat in Maurice's office, watching the chaos unfold on multiple news channels. Mark's fraud was front-page news, and Gabriella's family had publicly withdrawn their investment. "Your brother's outside," Maurice's assistant announced through the intercom. "Send him in." I straightened in my chair as Mark burst through the door, looking like he hadn't slept. "Fix this," he demanded. "Fix what?" I kept my voice calm. "The fraud you committed, the will you forged, or the mess you've made of our parents' company. You don't understand." He ran his hands through his disheveled hair. "I had to take control. You weren't ready. That wasn't your decision to make. I'll give you anything you want," he pleaded. "Name your price." The door opened again. Maurice walked in with Elena and two men in suits. "Mr. Swanson," one of the men said, "I'm from the Securities and Exchange Commission. We need you to come with us." As they led Mark away, Elena handed me a tablet. "The board just voted. They're removing him as CEO, effective immediately." "And?" I asked, knowing there was more. "And they're considering Meridian's offer for a merger." Maurice smiled. "With you at the helm of both companies." My phone rang. "Rachel." "Turn on Channel 7, she said, without greeting. "Gabriella's giving a press conference." I grabbed the remote, switching screens. Gabriella stood at a podium, her engagement ring noticeably absent. "While I care deeply for Mark," she was saying, "I cannot and will not be associated with someone who would betray their own family and commit fraud. The wedding is off." "That's gotta hurt," Elena muttered. "Not as much as this will," I said, pulling up an email. "Donald just sent over the footage from Dad's office the day they died. Security cameras caught everything." We watched in silence as the video played. Mark ushering lawyers in through the back door, signing documents while our parents lay unconscious in the hospital. "Release it," Maurice advised. "End this completely." "Wait," I stared at the screen. "There's something else we can do." That afternoon, I walked into the boardroom of Swanson Technologies for the first time since Mark had taken over. The board members sat around the massive table, looking shell-shocked. "Gentlemen," I began, "you have two options. A messy public merger with Meridian that will drag this company's reputation through more mud, or a clean private transition of power back to its rightful heir. You have proof?" the chairman asked. "Of the original will?" I placed a folder on the table. "I have everything. But I'm willing to keep the worst of it quiet if you do the right thing." "And what's that?" "Restore the company to joint ownership between Mark and me, as our parents intended. But with one condition: I have sole executive control." The chairman leaned forward. "And what happens to Mark?" "He keeps his shares, but steps down completely. No charges filed, no more public scandal. He gets to save face, and the company survives." Elena slipped into the room, handing me a note. I read it and smiled. "Oh, and Mark agrees. He's signing the papers as we speak." The board members exchanged glances. "All those in favor?" the chairman asked. Hands raised unanimously. Later that evening, I sat in what had once been Dad's office, and would soon be mine again. Rachel poured champagne into crystal glasses. "Your parents would be proud," she said, handing me one. "Though I'm surprised you let Mark keep his shares." "Sometimes mercy is the better revenge," I replied. "Besides, watching me run his company will be punishment enough." My phone buzzed. A text from Maurice. Merger announcement tomorrow. Ready to shock the business world? Elena walked in, carrying a stack of papers. The press is going crazy. Everyone wants to know how you did it. Let them wonder. I stood up, walking to the window. The city lights sparkled below, just as they had the night I'd gotten that mysterious phone call. We have work to do. Speaking of work, Elena said carefully, Donald's asking about that job you promised him. Head of security, I confirmed. He earned it. His evidence made this possible. Rachel raised her glass. To justice. To family, Elena added. I touched the diamond pendant at my neck, thinking of Mom and Dad. To legacy. As we drank, I noticed a small package on the desk, wrapped in familiar paper. The card read, You won. But remember, power comes with responsibility. Mark. Inside was Dad's old fountain pen, the one he'd used to sign every major contract. Well, I said, picking up the pen, shall we start fixing what he broke? The real work was just beginning. But for the first time in years, I felt truly ready. 6 months after taking control of the company, I found myself staring at an unexpected email. Mark wanted to meet. It's a bad idea, Elena said when I told her. We were having lunch in my office, surrounded by stacks of merger paperwork. Probably, I agreed. But he's still my brother. He's still the man who betrayed you, she reminded me. My phone lit up with a text from Maurice. Board meeting in 10. Bring the quarterly reports. We'll finish this later, I told Elena, gathering my files. The boardroom was packed. Our merger with Meridian had exceeded all expectations. And today, we were announcing another record quarter. The prodigal daughter delivers again, the chairman beamed as I presented the numbers. After the meeting, Rachel was waiting in my office. You're meeting him, aren't you? How did you? I'm having dinner with his ex-fiancée tonight, she explained. Gabriella mentioned he's been trying to make amends. I sank into my chair. What do you think he wants? Only one way to find out. The restaurant Mark chose was quiet, upscale, and neutral territory. He was already there when I arrived, looking thinner than I remembered. You look good, he said as I sat down. Success suits you. What do you want, Mark? He pulled out an envelope. To give you this. Inside was a letter, handwritten. I recognized Dad's writing immediately. Where did you get this? Found it in his desk drawer last week. It's dated 3 days before the accident. Mark's voice cracked slightly. Read it. The letter was addressed to both of us. My dearest children, if you're reading this, something has happened to your mother and me. The company is yours, both of yours. Together, you're stronger than either of you alone. Don't let pride or ambition destroy what we've built. Love, Dad. Why are you showing me this now? I asked, my hands shaking. Because I was wrong. Mark looked down at his untouched wine. I thought I was protecting our legacy, but I was just afraid. Afraid you'd be better at this than me. I am better at this than you. He actually smiled. Yes, you are. That's why I'm not contesting anything. You've earned this. Mark, let me finish. He held up his hand. I'm leaving the country. Starting fresh in London. But before I go, I needed you to know I'm sorry. For everything. My phone buzzed. A message from Donald. Emergency at the office. Server breach. Need you here now. I have to go. I stood up. There's a situation. Of course, Mark nodded. You're the boss now. At the office, I found Donald and our IT team huddled around monitors. Someone's trying to access the old private server, Donald explained. The one with the original documents, I finished. Can you trace it? Already did. He looked uncomfortable. It's coming from Pacific Solutions. My blood ran cold. I turned to Mark's old office, now mine, and froze. Through the glass walls, I could see someone at my computer. Call security, I whispered to Donald. But before he could move, Elena appeared beside us. Don't bother, look. On every screen in the office, documents were appearing. Proof that Pacific Solutions had been planning to strip our company for parts long before Mark's downfall. They were never going to save the company, I realized. They were going to destroy it. Check the trace again, Elena urged Donald. He typed rapidly. It's coming from Mark's laptop, in London. My phone buzzed with a text. Consider it my parting gift. Take care of our legacy. M. Rachel called moments later. Gabriella just told me something interesting. Pacific Solutions is scrambling. Someone leaked their entire acquisition strategy to the press. I looked at Dad's letter, still in my hand. Mark did one thing right, finally. What now? Donald asked. Now, I said. We do what Dad wanted. We build something stronger. Elena grinned. Together. Together. Later that night, alone in the office, I opened Dad's old desk drawer and found another surprise. A photo of Mark and me at our first company picnic, barely teenagers, both grinning proudly in matching company t-shirts. My phone lit up with one final text from Mark. You were always the better choice. Make them proud. I placed the photo next to Dad's letter and our latest quarterly report. The past and present, side by side. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but for now I had peace. And sometimes that's better than revenge. 1 year to the day after taking control of the company, I stood in the lobby watching workers install the new sign. Swanson Meridian Technologies. The merged companies, stronger than ever, just as Dad had wanted. Quite a view, Maurice said, joining me. But we have a situation upstairs. In the conference room, Elena and Donald waited with grim faces. Pacific Solutions is making moves again, Elena announced. They're targeting Mark's London operations. What? I leaned forward. Why? Revenge, Donald said, pulling up emails on the screen. They're still bitter about the leaked documents. They want to destroy everything connected to the Swanson name. My phone rang. Rachel. Turn on the financial news, now. The television flickered to life, showing Mark at a press conference in London. He looked tired, but determined. Yes, Pacific Solutions is attempting a hostile takeover, he was saying. But they've underestimated the strength of family. The camera panned to show the London Stock Exchange ticker. Pacific Solutions stock was plummeting. What did you do? I whispered at the screen. My answer came in the form of an email from Mark. Remember Dad's old contingency plans? I implemented them all. Pacific Solutions just tried to buy a shell company. They'll be bankrupt by morning. He protected us, Elena said, amazed. He actually protected the company. Both companies, Maurice corrected. The London branch and ours are still legally connected. If Pacific Solutions had succeeded, they would have had a backdoor to everything we've built, I finished. Donald's computer chimed. Incoming video call from London. Mark's face appeared on the screen, the London skyline behind him. Hello, sister. I assume you've seen the news. Why didn't you tell me they were coming after you? Because you would have tried to help. He smiled sadly. I needed to do this myself, to prove I could protect our legacy instead of destroying it. The contingency plans, I said. You remembered them all this time? Dad drilled them into us every Sunday dinner for years. Always have a backup plan, he'd say. Always protect the family business. Rachel burst into the room. Pacific Solutions just announced emergency restructuring. Their CEO resigned. Perfect timing, Mark said. Check your email, Vivi. I opened his message to find documents transferring his remaining shares to me. Mark? No. Yes, he interrupted. The company belongs with you. I'm starting fresh, building something new, something Dad would be proud of. He'd be proud of you right now, I said softly. Perhaps. Mark looked away for a moment. I have to go. Board meeting to attend. My last one. After he disconnected, Maurice cleared his throat. The press will want a statement. Let them wait, Rachel said. Family comes first. I stared at the share transfer documents, remembering all the Sunday dinners, all Dad's lessons, all the years Mark and I had spent learning the business together. Donald, I said suddenly, can you pull up the original company charter? He typed quickly. Here it is. Why? Look at Article 3. I pointed to the screen. About subsidiary companies. Elena leaned in. Any independently operated branch can maintain autonomous leadership while remaining under the parent company's protection. The London office, Maurice realized. You're going to let him keep running it. As a subsidiary, I confirmed, already drafting the paperwork. He proved himself today. Maybe it's time I proved something too. What's that? Rachel asked. That forgiveness doesn't make you weak. It makes you stronger. I called Mark back. When his face appeared, he looked surprised. The shares, I said. I'm not accepting them, but I am offering you a deal. By sunset, the papers were signed. Mark would retain control of the London operations as a subsidiary, while I maintained oversight of the global company. Pacific Solutions was finished, and our parents' legacy was secure. To new beginnings, Elena raised her glass in my office later that night. To family, Rachel added. To forgiveness, I said, touching Mom's pendant. My phone lit up with a final message from Mark. Sunday dinner next time I'm in town. I smiled, remembering Dad's voice. Always protect the family business. Yes, I typed back. We have a lot of catching up to do. Outside my office window, the new company sign glowed in the darkness, a beacon of everything we'd lost and found again. Sometimes the greatest victories aren't in revenge, but in redemption. Maurice appeared in my doorway, ready for tomorrow's challenges. More than ready, I said, standing up. We have a legacy to build. The autumn wind rustled through the cemetery as I placed fresh flowers on my parents' grave. The marble headstone gleamed in the morning light, recently cleaned and restored. I thought I'd find you here. Mark's voice came from behind me. I turned to see my brother, looking more like himself than he had in years. Your flight got in early. Couldn't sleep on the plane. He placed his own bouquet next to mine, too busy thinking about today. Today marked the official global merger celebration of Swanson Meridian Technologies. Both branches, London and domestic, operating in perfect sync at last. They'd be proud, I said, touching the headstone. Of both of us. Of you? Definitely. Mark straightened his tie. I'm still working on earning it back. My phone buzzed. Elena, everything's ready at the venue. Maurice is keeping the press entertained. We should go, I said. Rachel will kill us if we're late. At the convention center, the atmosphere crackled with excitement. Hundreds of employees, investors, and media representatives filled the main hall. There you are, Rachel hurried over. Donald's about to start the presentation. On the massive screen, images flashed, showing the company's journey, from our parents' first small office to the global enterprise it had become. Ready for this? Mark whispered, as we waited backstage. Are you? He smiled, a real smile, like when we were kids. Actually, yes. Donald's voice boomed through the speakers. Please welcome our CEO, Viviana, and the head of our London operations, Mark. The applause was deafening as we walked out together. A year ago, I began, this company nearly fell apart. Today we're stronger than ever. Because we remembered what matters most, Mark added. Family, legacy, trust. Maurice joined us on stage, carrying a familiar wooden box. Inside was Dad's old fountain pen, the one that had signed the original company documents. Today, I announced, we're not just celebrating a merger, we're celebrating a reunion. Mark opened a leather folder, revealing new partnership documents. From this day forward, all major decisions will require both signatures, London and domestic, just as our parents intended. The pen felt heavy in my hand as I signed. When Mark took his turn, his hands were steady. There's one more thing, I said into the microphone. We're establishing the Swanson Foundation for Business Ethics, ensuring that what happened to our family never happens to another. Elena appeared with another document, the Foundation's charter. The first board meeting is next week, she said. Gabriella agreed to serve as chairwoman. Mark's eyebrows shot up. My ex-fiancée. Who better to oversee ethical business practices? I grinned. She's got experience spotting red flags. The laughter from the audience broke any remaining tension. Later, at the celebration dinner, Rachel raised her glass. to second chances, and to lessons learned, Maurice added. Donald, slightly tipsy, chimed in. To the best revenge story that ended up not being about revenge at all. I caught Mark's eye across the table. He nodded slightly, understanding passing between us. Actually, I said, standing up, I have one last surprise. I nodded to Elena, who dimmed the lights. On the restaurant's wall, a projector flickered to life, showing a video I'd discovered in Dad's old files. To my children, Dad's voice filled the room. If you're watching this, you've either succeeded brilliantly or failed spectacularly. Either way, remember, business is business, but family is everything. Mark's hand found mine in the darkness. We got there eventually, he whispered. Better late than never. The video ended with Mom and Dad smiling at the camera, young and hopeful, standing in front of their first office. As the lights came up, I saw tears in Rachel's eyes. They'd be so happy right now. They are, I said, touching my mother's pendant. Somewhere. Morris raised his glass one final time. To the future of Swanson Meridian Technologies. No, Mark and I said simultaneously. We looked at each other, surprised, then laughed. To family, we corrected together. Outside, the city lights twinkled like stars. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities, new chances to prove ourselves worthy of our parents' legacy. But tonight, watching Mark chat easily with our old friends, seeing the pride in Rachel's eyes, feeling the weight of Mom's pendant against my heart, I knew we'd finally found our way home. Sometimes the best endings aren't about winning or losing. They're about finding what was lost and building something stronger from the pieces.